Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, August the 2nd. A new month, a new opportunity to chat with our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. George, welcome and welcome to the month of August.
Thank you very much. It's nice and warm here.
Well, we're supposed to get a little break now from the temperatures. We had quite a week. We had a week of triple digits just about every day. And when I went out for my little walk today, it was 74, and I couldn't believe it. I was saying, "Oh my God, when did winter show up?" But it was. I don't think it was as hot today as it was the last few days, and from what I hear, it's not going to be quite as bad this coming week. But last week it was awful, George. I mean, triple digits. Did you get triple digits down there too?
We did. We sure did.
Well, triple digits and humidity has got to be pretty bad.
It's rough. It's rough.
I bet it is. I bet it is. Well, before we get to our topic, we want to talk about these polls that came out this week, and we're also going to talk a little bit about what happened in Spain at that border. I just want to bring this up just quickly on this day in history, 1990. If you can go back, that's 36 years ago. My God. Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait 36 years ago. And that, of course, got us involved in the Gulf War. And, a lot of things that happened after. And I just think that it's remarkable. I remember that, when he went in, and I didn't know everything that would happen after and all the other things that would happen after. But clearly, this invasion of Kuwait, even though it was a huge defeat for Saddam Hussein eventually, was kind of the beginning, really, of a lot of this terrorism. Not terrorism so much, but the terrorism based in Iran, that is, so much. So it's just remarkable when you look back at this day 36 years ago, and think of everything. Now, were you with the Bush administration at the time?
Yeah, I sure was.
Okay.
I was working for Congressman Kemp at HUD. I would say that we started in the slide into involvement in the Middle East a little bit earlier, particularly when the Marines landed in Beirut in 1983.
Yes,
and they were attacked by Iranians.
Right about that.
Yeah, 236 Marines were killed. Then you had in 1988, you had the Lockerbie attack. And again, the United States went after Libya. And in those situations, I think it was already beginning, we were starting to creep in there. However, we went full blast in the Kuwait liberation. I think you're right. I mean, that's when we really, really escalated our involvement.
Right. And of course, it was successful. It was successful in the sense that we drove them out. I think the mistake that was made was more made by the Clinton administration in not having come down harder on Osama bin Laden and basically not taking it as seriously as I think they should have taken it. And that's how we got 9/11.
Exactly.
So, I personally, I just remember this day, Kuwait, back in 1990. And it so happens that there was a friend of my father or a client really of my father, who was American, but he was married to somebody from Kuwait, a lady from Kuwait. And I remember talking to him, not today, but during the days that followed, and they were trying to figure out what had happened to their family. Because if you remember, Saddam Hussein, his troops were brutal. Yeah. They went in and they literally went into homes and looted. It was a horrible, it was a horrible time for Kuwait. But anyway, let's come to Texas 2026. This week was, I guess we saw a bunch of polls that came out. The most prominent poll, the one that got the most attention, was the one showing Tallarico 51-48 over Attorney General Paxton. The same poll had Governor Abbott leading, I guess, State Representative Hinojosa by 1 point. When I saw that second number, George, the Abbott over Hinojosa by 1 point, that's when I knew right away. I knew this cannot be a real poll, because I don't know of any Democrat, serious Democrat, who really thinks that Abbott is leading Hinojosa by 1 point. If they thought that, they'd be running instead of her.
Yeah.
Because she really was a very weak candidate. So anyway, your reaction, but I guess particularly to the Paxton poll, what was your reaction to that?
Well, again, it beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and polls are in the eye of the people that are carrying them out. In this case, again, you've got liberal organizations and universities helping in doing these polls, including the University of Texas, including Rice University, and the University of Houston. And I mean, I'm sorry, but when you get those type of polls, they are going to be slanted. How are they slanted? Well, they are slanted in the way that the questions are asked. The questions are posed in such a manner that they favor a liberal point of view. And in that aspect of it, you are getting these responses, these reactions. We also need to understand, and this is something that historically has been a fact, particularly in Texas, is that conservatives and Republicans really never, hardly ever participate in polls. If they get called for a poll for a question, they don't answer, they hang up, they just move on. And in that aspect of it, then you're going to have very limited input from that side, from that point of view. So those are the underlying factors in this whole situation, plus the fact that, I'm sorry, but normal Texans are not going to favor somebody who believes in a binary God, who believes that children need to be taught about genderism, that you need to have a welcome mat for illegal aliens at the border. Normal Texans are not going to react very favorably to that.
Right. No, I think I agree with you. I think he's a very bad candidate. I think another thing going on is that really for the last 30 days, Tallarico has had kind of a free ride because he really hasn't had any opposition. Well, I'm hoping that Paxton begins here real fast and they start spending money here and they start defining him. But if you look at it, if you're a Democrat and you look at that poll, the Paxton poll, I think back to the one about Abbott, I cannot think of a single Democrat who took that number seriously. But anyway, with respect to Paxton, if the best that you can do after having had pretty much an easy month and after all the primary that the Republicans went to and all the bitterness that is still there, if the best you can do is be basically in a margin of error situation, I think, maybe Tallarico has been peaking too soon.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see, or I believe, I'm pretty sure that you'll see over the next few weeks. Again, I don't know anybody at the Paxton campaign, so I don't know when they're planning to unleash what I hope is a lot of ads about this man. And one thing, by the way, that I would recommend to Paxton is, yes, talk about what a weird guy he is. Talk about that. But also talk about his policy positions. He is running this TV ad, the one with the truck. He is running this TV ad saying that he led some bipartisan bills in the state legislature. And I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. I didn't know who this guy was 6 months
When?
ago.
When
And
did
now
that
he's telling me he's been a leader in bipartisanship. I mean, this just doesn't add up. And so, I'm hoping that we can point that out.
Yeah.
And in the ads that I hope will be starting very soon, George.
Yeah. Yeah. He is. In fact, Paxton is going to be doing a rally here in San Antonio on Saturday. And he's also going to be going through the valley sometime soon. So I think that his campaign is going to be hitting its stride in high gear very, very soon.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that because right now, Pat Tallarico has had a free ride
Mm-hmm.
and he needs to be challenged. Now, you're in South Texas. You know this as well as anybody. We keep hearing that the Hispanic vote is going to elect Tallarico, that Paxton is someone who has lost the Hispanic vote, that Hispanics are angry at Paxton. I don't buy that, but you live there. I don't. How do you see it? Because I mentioned that this came up when I was doing an interview with one of the channels, and I said, "Well, I don't." He asked me, "Don't you think that Paxton is having problems with Hispanics?" And I said, "Well, the one place where Hispanics are going to be dominant is in South Texas, and I don't see any evidence that any Hispanics or that any Republicans are going to lose down there. On the contrary, they seem to be doing pretty well down there on the border, George."
There is a lot of wishful thinking by Democrats. That's number one. There's also a very small but very, very loud group of socialist Democrats that are trying to tell the rest of the United States Democrat party apparatus that there is an opportunity to turn Texas blue. And so they are being very, very loud. They are attracting a lot of attention. And so, unfortunately, people think that this group that is being loud means that there are a lot of people, but it's very, very much the opposite. A lot of these folks, a lot of these activists are little more than annoying mainstream Hispanic voters. Here in San Antonio and again in the Rio Grande Valley, you've got a lot of really, really leftist activists who are out there campaigning for Tallarico and for Hinojosa, but in essence, they are using issues that are turning people off. There are some folks who are trying to use the border enforcement to tell people, to tell Hispanics that they are being discriminated against. But they forget that illegal immigration has competed for jobs in the Rio Grande Valley. And illegal immigration was what turned them against the Democrats to begin with in both Trump elections. So, yeah, you hear this, but I just don't see it, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think there may be more. I think more Hispanics may be disenchanted because of the economy. I think that might be a bigger factor. Yeah, that may be a factor. Gasoline, yeah, the price of gas. So that I think is a real factor. But the question is, and I think the reason that Democrats are not clicking with anybody is that, they come on and they criticize Trump. And Trump is this and Trump is that. But then what are they offering that is going to get anybody to turn on and vote for them? Because, for example, in the area of energy, you know as well as I do how important oil and these refineries are in South Texas. I mean, that whole Corpus.
It is jobs for people.
Exactly. That whole Corpus Christi area is extremely important.
It is jobs for people. And so they're not going to go. They're not going to go with that. They're not going to go with the transgender issue. They are not going to go with with anti-religious issues. They are not going to go. A lot of them are veterans from the Gulf War. They are not going to go with Muslim favoritism. They are not going to. I mean, there's a lot of things that Hispanics are very much in line with the conservative agenda, and this is what the Democrats keep losing on, is that they ignore that, or they try to underplay it.
Yeah, I keep telling Democrats when they talk about the Hispanic vote, I say, do not go to South Texas and tell a Hispanic man that that man who's competing against his daughter has a constitutional right to do so. That just doesn't fly. I don't think it flies anywhere, but especially in that community that is so traditional. So again, I think these polls, I am willing to accept that Abbott and Paxton are in the margin of error right now. Honestly, so was Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz at this time. So were Beto O'Rourke and Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott, in fact, was saying this time that 4 years ago there was a poll that showed him trailing Beto O'Rourke by 2 points at this time. And I do agree with you. I think polls in Texas have historically undercounted or underreported, whatever the word is, the Republican vote, because back in 2020, George, we may have spoken about this on a show before, but back in 2020, on the Friday before the presidential election, there was a poll that hit the internet that was driving everybody crazy, saying that Biden was going to win Texas by 1 point. Remember that?
Yeah.
It's from one of the universities, one of these university polls. And I'm looking at that poll and I'm going, wait a minute. You know, he's not going to win by 15. Okay, I'll give him that. Or Trump, that is. But he's not going to lose Texas by 1 point. So there's something wrong with the way they calculate these polls. And polls are hard to do. And I give the pollsters a lot of credit for trying. But I remember I have a friend up in Minnesota, Barry Castleman, who really understands these polls as well as anybody I know. And he was telling me that one of the problems that pollsters are having is, you talked about this yourself a few minutes ago, is that they have to now reach or attempt to reach so many people to get one answer. It used to be, George, and you and I kind of probably grew up at the time that this was true, you had one phone in the house, and it was usually in the living room or in the kitchen. So, hello. And they said, oh, I'm calling from the pollster. And he goes, oh my God, what an honor. I am going to get to talk to a pollster. What would you like to know? And, you know, I'm sounding a little crazy, but that is in fact what used to happen. So they didn't have to make as many calls to reach one person. Because very often the person they were reaching, there was one phone line and the person would answer it. Because there was no, you know, caller ID or anything like that to tell them who it was. So I just, you know, I mentioned this. I don't think we should assume that Paxton is going to win by a landslide. I always prefer sort of playing from behind and always being more aggressive. But I don't think he is going to lose. In fact, I think he's going to win fairly easily. And Paxton is really, I mean, Abbott is even going to win even bigger.
Even better, yeah.
Yeah, even better. So anyway, that was my reaction to those polls that had the whole country captivated. And I think what happened with one of those polls, George, is that it was the Fox News poll. And because it was the Fox News, obviously Fox News was talking about it, and that gave it a lot of credibility. Because, you know, I think people have Fox News has a good reputation with people, so they assume. But Fox News polls are not always the same thing as Fox News station.
Because they still depend on outside.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that we both agree that those polls were probably a little bit more tilted toward Puerto Rico than they should be. Let's wait and see what happens when they actually start campaigning. Well, let me. Anything else you want to add about the polls?
No,
or the race?
I think that's pretty much the lay of the land that we just talked about.
So how do they feel? You know the Pakistan people better than me. How do they feel about the campaign?
No, they are concerned. They are concerned that it's still as close as it is. They'd much more rather be winning or be ahead in polls by double figures if possible. But there's still a good amount of confidence in the victory in November.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly right. Well, let's talk about, something that happened in Spain, George. And I don't know if you had the same sensation I had. It sure looked like Del Rio, Texas in Spain, didn't it?
Yeah,
Remember when Del Rio had those people on the other side who were trying to come in? But it kind of looked like that when I first looked at it. And I said, oh my God, they're talking about Del Rio, Texas again. But no, they were talking about actually, it's not actually Spain in the sense that they made it to the country. It's this little piece of land that is Spanish territory.
yeah.
That's what it was. But I mean, the message is the same. They were breaching the border, and the Europeans are pretty angry with the prime minister of Spain because they're saying that the prime minister of Spain is encouraging illegal immigration. Well, I think the entire continent has been encouraging illegal immigration. I mean, look at England, look at all these other countries, look at France, so I think it's nice to get angry at the Spanish prime minister. By the way, I don't like the Spanish prime minister. I think he's not a very good man or a good prime minister. But a lot of other countries, honestly, have contributed to this mess, George.
It the European Union has always had a policy of open borders. They've called it welcoming migrants. They used the excuse that there was a great need of for labor because the birth rate was very low in European countries, and then they used the excuse that because of the technical technical growth of these economies, the growth in technology, that migrants were needed for lower skill jobs. There has been excuse after excuse. The problem has been is that these folks have come in and at the same time been given a lot of welfare benefits, and they didn't really move into a lot of these low income or low skill jobs like they had expected them to. The other thing is that they have not integrated. The liberal diversity in culturism has created a situation where you've got whole communities like in London, whole neighborhoods that these folks have maintained their culture and almost a separate, complete identity from the rest of the country. This situation is one which the European Union built into itself and caused its own problems. Now you've got a lot of the European members, like England, like Germany, who are very anxious, like Denmark, who are very anxious to get control of their borders, and they're having a hard time. Criticism
Right.
of
And
Spain's minister is because he is a socialist and he does believe in open borders.
right. Well, the problem in Spain is, I mean, there's many problems, but this prime minister basically signed into law what we would call in the United States an immigration reform package,
Yeah.
where he legalized about 1 million people who were already in the country, and the argument was they're here and we need them to work here. So that was the argument. The problem is
He gave him
what
amnesty.
well, sure, but the problem is that the other European countries are a little bit concerned about the intentions of some of these so-called workers.
Yes.
Because once you get in, and this is amazing to me, this is why I continue to believe that the European Union may not be around in 10 years.
Yeah.
But once you go into Spain and you become a legal resident of Spain, you get at least residency. I'm not saying citizenship. You can now get on a train and you can go anywhere in the European.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, that sounds real good until you've got all these people showing up in all these countries and, well, they're having all kinds of problems. So Italy decided that they were going to shut down the traffic. But I think overall, it's just another indication of how poorly run their immigration system has been. And you're right when you said they have very low birth rates. They do. In fact, it's dangerously low. But I think there's a better way of of addressing that problem than to allow a bunch of people
open your border.
Yeah, I think opening your border. I mean, I can think of other things that they could do, like encourage childbirth. Because I was talking to a lady from Spain here in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and I asked her, what's going on in Spain? Why is it that they don't have babies? And she goes, well, it's economic. It's very expensive. And I said, well, look, it's always been expensive to have babies. I don't know whenever it was cheap, but nevertheless, she was telling me that, young people are scared because it's so expensive. Then I said, well, why don't they give them tax credits if they have babies, or give them some kind of a monetary incentive to help them with the cost. I mean, they're already getting free education and free healthcare. I mean,
yeah.
So, anyway, so it is a big problem. It is a big problem for the Europeans, and I have no idea if they're going to fix it. I sometimes, when I see Europe and what we just saw a couple of days ago with those people running in, I think that Europe is sort of like, remember the ghost in Charles Dickens' novel, The Ghost of the Future?
Yeah.
Who told you, let me tell you what the future may look like. Doesn't have to look like that. And Dickens or Scrooge looked at the ghost and said, do these things really have to happen? And he says, no, they don't have to happen, but they may happen if you don't change. So maybe every European should read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and get acquainted with that ghost. Because if you're the United States and you look at what we just saw and what we're seeing in Europe, that's the future right there. That could be where we're headed.
That's it. So
I don't know. I don't know what I can tell you. I also, George, and this is a bit speculation in my part, I wonder if they can even do anything about it now because they're so deep into it.
It's really, I mean, well, let's look at what's happening in Ireland, for example.
Yes.
They are actually trying to stop and reverse deport people. And they're having a hell of a time. They're having a terrible time in the deportation because people don't want to leave. I mean, why would they want to leave a place that's better than what they came from? You open the door, you let them in. Now you're going to tell them to leave and they don't want to leave. That is something that we should be looking at the United States, because we are facing much in the same situation.
Right. I think it was Milton Friedman, the great economist, and I'm going to paraphrase this. I don't have the exact quote, but he said something like this, that illegal immigration and the welfare state just don't work. Illegal immigration and the welfare state just don't work. Now, when lots and lots of immigrants came here from Europe 100 or whatever years ago, or even Cubans like I came, we didn't have a welfare state. Now, we were given help. I'm not going to sit there and say that we didn't get help, but it's nowhere near this.
No, not what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, and what we now have is a situation where you begin to get people addicted on government checks. I mean, in Europe for sure. And once they get addicted, they're not going to leave.
Yeah, especially after COVID here in the United States. After COVID, people were being paid to stay home. Oh, sure. And a lot of those people that were being paid to stay home were illegal aliens that had just crossed the border. So as you recall, in New York City, you had a lot of people staying in that big, beautiful hotel that they ruined, staying there and demanding better food.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
they were getting room service, and they were demanding better food and better room service. I
Right.
mean, this is the insanity of our our current situation around the world. Is that migrants, immigration has been turned into a weapon,
Right.
uh, and it is being used uh, because of welfare, the welfare system that is out of control.
It is a weapon. You're exactly right. I agree with you. It has also become a way of sending money back home
Mhm.
through remittances, and that creates this dependency, like the Mexican economy, for example.
Exactly.
2, 3. I mean, I've heard different numbers. Okay, anywhere from 2% to 3% to 4% to 5%. I mean, any one of those numbers, you can pick the one you think is better. But that is how much of their GDP is based on remittances. So if you were to stop the remittances to Mexico, let's say, for 90 days, it would actually shock their economy.
It
It
would.
would have an impact on their, as long as also all the social problems it would create, all these people expecting money that they're not getting. That would also create a problem. But in terms of all that cash coming in, they've come dependent on this, and I think that that is also another consequence of illegal immigration, that people back home get used to having somebody up here send a couple $100 to your mom. Well, that she gets used to that, and that becomes part of the social welfare program in Mexico. These remittances become part of their welfare program,
Yep.
and that's a problem. Well, George, I guess we'll probably be talking about some of these polls more often over the next few weeks as we get into the campaign. But I'm hoping to see more Paxton ads hopefully soon, and I'm sure the governor will start his ads that are always very effective.
Yep.
What do you think of the attorney general race? And any word on that?
No, I think that the attorney general's race with gosh, what's his name? He's brand new to me.
I know that's the problem. He's not
Um,
James, I think, right?
yeah,
Isn't it
yeah,
James, the last name? And Nate
no,
Johnson is the Democrat, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but yeah, I
I
mean, I have the same problem.
it'll be
I
very,
couldn't
very
remember.
interesting. I'm assuming he's got the inside track, but
Right, I
again,
do.
we don't. I'm against Texas because he's a North Texan. He's gonna need to get out on the campaign trail.
Well, they all do. But what's funny about attorney general? We've had so much stability in that position. First of all, you had Greg Abbott for
Yep.
I think 2 terms or maybe
Mhm.
3, and then you have had Paxton now since 14, right? So it's almost like hard to remember anybody but Abbott
Yeah.
and Paxton as attorney general for a long time. So that has something to do. But I couldn't remember his name either. I think it's James. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to look it up. I mean, I'm a
I'm
little
trying to
bit
think
embarrassed
about
that I don't know.
it. Me too.
Yeah, no, but we'll talk about it the next time. Well, thank you, George, as always, for your time. And let's keep up with the campaign, and let's hope that triple digit temperatures do not come back between now and whenever the Cowboys start playing.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Our good friend, George Rodriguez from South Texas, taking a look at some of this polling data that came out. That became very controversial, especially the numbers for Governor Abbott and his challenger, Gina Hinojosa. It just makes no sense that he would only be 1 point of her ahead of her. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about the lady, but she's not well known at all. And the fact that she's running or she was nominated for governor tells you everything you need to know about how much the Democrats, or how difficult the Democrats thought it would be to defeat Governor Abbott, who's running for the 4th time. and I'm sure we'll win rather easily. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.